You can now support Ghost Maps on Patreon. Simply look for We Are HANTU or click the link in the description. Ghost Maps, entry 112, Polytechnic, Singapore. I'm sitting at a coffee shop in Seletar. It's a place where some truly strange things have happened to me before. And that's why it only felt right that I conduct this evening's interviews here. It's the Hungry Ghost Month, the time of the year when the walls between our world and the world beyond are thinnest. It's when spirits roam more freely. And I have with me tonight a whole family of spirits. This is a new experience for me. For one thing, I now have the third eye, an ability I never had before. I still don't know what caused it to open. When it did, though, this family was waiting for me. They won't tell me what their family name is. They won't tell me how they're all related to each other. Sometimes it looks like there's dozens of them, all looking at me with the unblinking eyes of the dead. Sometimes there seems to only be 3 or 4. Some of them look remarkably different from each other. Some of them are even of different races. But then, some of them are also clearly from different times, wearing clothes or styles from eras long gone. Generations of spirits from one very large family. And they want me to tell their stories. The spirit of the old man who initially spoke to me when my third eye opened steps forward. His name is Henry. "Why did you ask us to come here instead of speaking with us when we first met?" he asks. I tell him that I can't be seen speaking to thin air in public, and that this place is more accepting of the unseen. And I continue. It's better to converse during Hungry Ghost Month, because, well, it just felt right. Henry seems to agree. I ask him if he would like to take a seat, but he shakes his head. "Lots of stories to share. Maybe we'll get to mine eventually," he says with a smile. It's the first sign of emotion I've seen from any of the spirits, and it puts me a little more at ease. The old man steps aside, and seemingly out of nowhere, a little boy appears. He looks like he can't be more than 7 years old. He's dressed in brown shorts and a white singlet. He's wearing a pair of flip-flops that I remember were sold in pretty much every mini-mart in the 1980s. The boy sits on the chair across from me without moving it. He's fidgety, his legs dangling playfully off his seat. He can't seem to focus on me. I've never interviewed a child before, living or dead. So, if I had to guess, like a lot of other children, it must be a little awkward for him to speak with an adult. Even though, in reality, he's probably older than I am. To start us off right, I break one of my rules. To be fair, it's a rule I've only reserved for the living so far. I lean forward and greet him, then introduce myself. Not as the collector, but with my real name. That seems to help him settle down. "Nice to meet you," he says, finally meeting my gaze. My name is Jeffrey. I don't ask Jeffrey how he died. I've been told that that's a faux pas when it comes to spirits. Instead, I ask him if he has a story to tell. He nods his head excitedly and starts to tell me about the flat where he died. I stop him gently and ask him to pause for just a moment. I take out a notebook and a pen from my bag. An electronic recorder I learned from friends who have spoken with the dead before wouldn't catch their voices. So, I have to do this the old-fashioned way. I flip open my notebook and ask Jeffrey to start from the beginning. Jeffrey looks embarrassed when he tells me, I ate something I wasn't supposed to when I was alive. I smile encouragingly, but don't say anything. It looked like a sweet, he says, trying to justify his mistake. But my mummy put it in her cupboard. A mothball, I realize. Jeffrey tells me that his soul has resided in that flat since then, even after his family moved out. He sounds sad when he says this, but tries to put up a brave front. He knew that his family hadn't forgotten him. Still, it hurt to see them leave without him. The flat was eventually repurposed some years later into a space for a nearby tertiary institute. The school's students could reserve units throughout the building and hold camps or events there. Jeffrey's voice drops down to a conspiratorial whisper when he tells me that he would sometimes tease these students. I just laugh near them, he says with a smirk. Make them scared a bit. He never physically harmed anyone. No one ever gave him a reason to. Not till the Hungry Ghost Month in 2014, that is. Yet another group of students, 10 in total, had reserved Jeffrey's unit, though not for any upcoming event. From what Jeffrey could gather, they just wanted a place where they could stay over. Which would have been fine, if not for one of their group, a young man named Eugene. Jeffrey had gotten up to his usual bit of mischief, giggling near the students, whispering, "Hello," in one of their ears. Even moving the mouse on a laptop, a trick he picked up over the last few years. Not enough to frighten the students away, but certainly enough to give them the creeps. Eugene, however, seemed to take this as an opportunity to show off how brave he was. He mocked his schoolmates, branding them cowards. He proclaimed loudly how ghosts didn't exist. And then, most insulting of all, he dared Jeffrey to take action. "We got ghosts," he yelled in the middle of the unit, while his friends shushed him. "If there's a ghost, show me a sign lah." So Jeffrey decided to do just that. "I made it so it didn't hurt at first," Jeffrey says, snickering. Eugene decided to head back home instead of staying with the rest, which suited Jeffrey fine. He waited patiently, not bothering the rest of the students anymore. An hour passed. Then one of the other students' phones went off. A video call from Eugene. He was screaming and panicking. The students couldn't decipher what he was saying. Finally, he stopped trying to tell them what had happened and showed them instead. He placed his phone down and removed his shirt. 5 claw marks ran down his back. He wasn't bleeding profusely, but it was enough to show that the scratches had been delivered with malice. The rest of the students immediately packed their things and scrambled out of the unit, leaving Jeffrey alone once again. I didn't think it would be that bad, Jeffrey says guiltily. I just wanted to scare him, not hurt him. Since then, Jeffrey has learned to control his temper a little bit better. He's generally left the students alone, except when another brave soul starts to question his existence. Only then does he start giggling, a little louder than he did before. He gives me a taste of that giggle, and what I hear isn't just the innocent, playful laughter of a child. And there's also a guttural, feral growl there too. Cool, right? He says. I nod politely, trying to keep my composure. Thank you, Jeffrey, Henry says, leading the boy away. I ask who is next, and a woman in a simple but still fashionable dress from the 70s steps forward. If you want to discover more of Southeast Asia's other side, subscribe now and follow us on social media. You can also be one of our supporters on Patreon. Look for We Are HANTU or click the links in the description. Ghost Maps is a HANTU production created by Kyle Ong and Wayne Ray, with art direction by Jolene Lim, and recorded on Audio Technica mics.